In the quiet hamlet of Ravenswood, nestled deep within an ancient forest, there stood an old chapel. Its once vibrant paint had faded to ashen hues, and its narrow windows stared like hollow eyes into the encroaching darkness of the woods. The villagers spoke in hushed whispers about the chapel, warning young and old alike to stay away after dark. Among those who grew up with these tales was Marcus, a skeptical young man with a penchant for debunking myths. One chilly autumn night, driven by curiosity and defiant bravado, he approached the chapel, determined to prove that the old stories were nothing but fabrications. The air was heavy with fog, wrapping around the lonely structure as if it were trying to drag it into oblivion. The only sound was the crunching of leaves beneath Marcus' boots. As he neared the chapel, he noticed a small cartoon fox, oddly out of place, painted near the door. Its cheerful demeanor stood in stark contrast to the building's eerie presence. Pushing the heavy wooden door open, it creaked loudly, echoing through the emptiness inside. The interior was dimly lit by the pale moonlight seeping through the windows. Dust-laden pews lined the hall, and at the far end stood the altar, draped in cobwebs. Determined to explore, Marcus set up his camera to document the adventure. He brushed it off, attributing it to nerves, and moved deeper into the chapel. It grew louder, more insistent. Marcus turned, scanning the room for the source, only to find himself alone. The sound was now accompanied by faint whispers, unintelligible but distinctly sorrowful. He followed the noise, leading him to a hidden door behind the altar. With a deep breath, Marcus pulled the door open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. As he carefully made his way down, the temperature plummeted, and the whispers grew louder, more coherent. They spoke of lost souls, trapped between worlds, condemned to wander the chapel for eternity. At the bottom of the stairs, Marcus found himself in a small, cold room. The walls were adorned with faded murals of the cartoon fox, now distorted and sinister. In the center of the room stood an ancient book on a pedestal. Compelled by a force he couldn't I² beta negation beta t explain, Marcus approached and opened it. The moment he touched the brittle pages, the whispers ceased, replaced by a deafening silence. A sudden, overwhelming sense of dread filled the room. The air grew thick, making it hard to breathe. The floor beneath him shuddered as a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness, its form undefined but exuding pure malevolence. In a flash, the figure lunged toward Marcus. He stumbled backward, dropping the book. As it hit the ground, the figure halted, retreating into the shadows. Marcus, mustering every ounce of courage, grabbed the book and fled up the stairs, not daring to look back. Out of breath and heart pounding, he burst through the chapel doors into the night. The forest seemed less menacing now, the air lighter. He could hear the faint sound of morning birds beginning to chirp. Marcus never spoke of what happened that night. The chapel still stood, a silent sentinel of dark secrets and lingering spirits. And though Marcus had survived his encounter, he knew never to venture too close to the chapel again. The cheerful mural of the fox remained, a misleading facade masking the malevolence that lurked within. Years later, the chapel was finally abandoned, left to be reclaimed by the forest. Only Marcus ever knew what truly lingered in those shadows, and he was determined to ensure that the secrets of Ravenswood Chapel remained undisturbed for generations to come.